Hello everyone, and welcome to KIN 3303 Motor Learning for the Summer 1 semester of 2026. I'll be your instructor, Dr. Jared Blinch. So this first module on the course format is an easy module, a short module, and it's really just about the course organization and the course syllabus. So make sure to read the syllabus. I've tried to make it as short as possible so that you know all the course policies, due dates, timelines, and the first test in this section will actually be over the content in the course syllabus. Today, I'm not going to cover the whole syllabus because you can definitely read it, but I want to highlight three important things. First, the documents that are available for each module. So after this first module, which is kind of a special, simple module, the following modules will all be kind of content modules about motor learning, and there's documents available to help you learn the material. So first of all, the PowerPoint slides are accessible, and there are practice questions, and then there are a version of the practice questions with solutions. And those are to help you test your understanding, especially before you head into the Canvas test where you only get one chance to answer those questions. There's two ways to access those materials. The first is in this screenshot shown down here of our page on Canvas. At the very top of the modules section, there's this PowerPoint slides and practice questions for all modules, and there's this zip file. So you can download this zip file and extract it. And here, this is what it will look like in Windows File Explorer. And you can see that there's a folder for every module except the first one. And in each of these folders, so if we look at the information processing folder, inside what you'll find are the PowerPoint slides, if you'd like a copy of those. And then there's two Word documents, the practice questions, and then the practice questions with the solutions. That's the first way to access them, maybe the easier way because you can download them all at once. The second way is for each YouTube video for each module, I guess except this first one. If you click on the description down below the video, there'll be links to the PowerPoint slides, the practice questions with solutions. The other thing you'll see here in most of the modules, there's going to be links to videos. So we'll be talking about a topic, and I'll ask you to pause, my YouTube video, follow one of these links, watch that video, and then come back to YouTube. So those links are typically in the PowerPoint files, but for convenience, they're also in the description of the YouTube videos. Okay, this is going to be quite quick. So second, due dates. Now, every module has an optimal due date, and there's also an extension due date. And you can submit later at the extension due date without any penalty. So this is a screenshot of the table that's in our course syllabus, and here it lists every module. So it continues on to module 14, and for each of those we have the ideal and extension due dates. Now first, the ideal due dates are Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So the course format module, for example, the ideal due date is Friday, May 12th, and these will always be at 11:59 and 0 seconds p.m. Central Time. So all the modules we're going to keep going. I guess we're starting with a Friday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. The only break from that is Juneteenth, later on in June. The extension due dates are 24 hours later. So for this first one, instead of Friday, the extension due date is Saturday, May 30th, again at 11:59 p.m. Central Time. Those extensions are there in case something goes wrong, you need a little more time, but I do recommend sticking with those optimal due dates. A note on those. Now, Canvas is not sophisticated enough to know that there's an optimal and an extension due date. When you start every test, it will list the optimal and the extension due date, but ultimately in Canvas I had to give it a single due date. So what I did is the Canvas due dates are always the extension due dates. Otherwise, things would be late if you use those, and it would be a lot of hassle and confusion. So Canvas has all the extension due dates. But I do recommend that you follow the optimal due dates. And in fact, you can even work ahead of the due dates. So all the modules should now be available. And if you have more time at the start of the summer and you're going to go on a vacation later on in June, then you can go ahead and finish modules ahead of those due dates. Last up, past student performance in this course and maybe a few tips from me on how to be successful. This is from last summer, and the course was quite similar. And you can see that there's kind of a normal distribution to the grades here. And unfortunately, there were, if I count this right, 10 students it looks like who did not achieve at least a C-. And that's unfortunate because if you're a kin major or minor, you need at least a C- to not have to retake the course. So I don't think this course is overly hard, but things are definitely more dense and demanding in the summer. And it is typical for some students, to not achieve at least a C-. If we look at performance throughout the modules, it's fairly consistent. If anything, maybe there's a slight decrease over the semester. And I think that's because these summer courses are brutal. They're hard because they're so condensed. And right now we're all a bit fresh after a little break from the spring semester, but this month of this course will be quite demanding, and I think that's why performance kind of gradually decreases overall. I don't know why there's kind of these 3 lower blips for compatibility, vision, and coordination. Each semester seems to show different blips. Those aren't always the hardest modules, but maybe do some extra due diligence on those to make sure you understand the content. Coordination has actually been revamped this year. Not sure if it's easier or harder, but hopefully it's better and more enjoyable. So maybe that one won't have a dip in performance. Now after kind of 3 or 4 modules, once we've all passed the due dates for compatibility and sensory and working memory, I'll look to see if anyone has an average below 70%, and I'll send you an email at that point. Now at that point, 4 modules in, there's still time to kind of increase your grades and make it through this course. But I just want to give people kind of an early warning if, especially after those first 4 modules, your performance isn't where it needs to be. A few tips from me. So this course is a little different than some of your other kinesiology courses because we talk about things that we can't necessarily see, like learning and memory. We can't look in the brain and see those directly like we can, a muscle or the heart. So this course might require different study strategies than some of your other courses. So this is a link here to a video I made about the study cycle, kind of a scientifically optimized way to study. That's very helpful. You might already do a lot of the steps involved in this. One thing I find that takes tailoring to each course is how you study. And certain study techniques you use in, say, anatomical kinesiology might not work as well in this course. So if you find you're struggling with the material, maybe try different study methods. You can watch this video where I talk briefly about those stages. Also, the Learning Center at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill has a great number of resources about studying for kind of any course, any sort of situation. This is just a part of their website. You can follow this link here. It goes even further with the number of links. And over here, there's a link to the study cycle, so you can read it. And you can branch off to any part of the study cycle, and it will give you even more tips and tools about how to be as productive as possible. But if you are struggling with this course, you can always reach out to me, and I can see if I can give any advice that could be helpful. All right, that's it. Just 3 quick topics today. Make sure to read the course syllabus, and when you're ready, take that first test, which will cover the content from the syllabus. And I'll see y'all in our next module.